This is the Paul Goff audio experience, business lessons for physical therapists. My name is Paul Goff, former professional soccer physical therapist turned successful business owner and best-selling author from the UK. Each week, we answer your questions and bring you an inspiring story or person from the global physical therapy community. This show is dedicated to sharing with you everything you need to know to become hugely successful in private practice. Thanks for joining me today. Now let the class begin. Let's get into a podcast that is, it's a very special one. We're going to talk to our ultimate CEO winner, Derrick Hines, and I'm going to fill everybody in on what that means if you're new to the show. But first, I'm just going to share out on my Facebook page. Derrick, if you want to post out on yours, tell everybody that you're global, that you're all over the world right now. We're on Facebook Live. We are on LinkedIn Live. We're on YouTube Live, Macy. YouTube Live, Instagram Live, like anywhere you can be live right now. We're beaming all over the world, and this thing will make its way to the podcast as well. So, a pretty cool piece of kit that Macy has found for us to be able to spread the message and do these cool interviews with. So, but yeah, welcome everybody. We've got a fantastic interview. It's been a couple of weeks since we did the first. Let me put Facebook on so I can watch this, and questions often come in so I can answer them live. It's been a few weeks since the amazing PPM, and a little bit of that's going to come up today. It has just been the most amazing. I don't know how to explain the come down, if you like, from it. It's just been fantastic, and the people that have got in touch, and the memories, if you like, and the pictures are continuing to be shared and posted, and just conversations in the office. Everybody's on a high, and I'm going to kick it off with this little thought. I did a mastermind call yesterday, and I shared this, that the clarity that I've got personally right now, and I'm always trying to share lessons of what I'm doing in my life, and that's really what this this podcast is about. The clarity that I've got in my life right now is probably the best I've ever had it. The energy that I've got is the most I've ever had, and the assertiveness that I've ever had. It's almost like there's a hurricane blowing through the office every time I walk through the door or I enter a call. It's almost just, if there was no bullshit before, like there's definitely no bullshit anymore. Like this thing has just moved up a notch, and being quite reflective, which I am. I try to think about, well, if my behavior's changed, why has it changed? And one of the reasons is because we as a team, I kind of set the goal, if you like, and we as a team smashed a huge goal for ourselves to put on something as big as we did. And there is something in that where you feel better about yourself. You kind of stay true to your kind of what you want, your mission, who you are, and what you're about. And when you set down some big goals and you knock them over, you can't help but feel better about yourself because of the overcoming the challenge of it, but B, the fact that you accomplished it. And the message for anybody listening is that sometimes you need a big goal in your life, and you need to be stretched just to feel better about yourself at the other end, so that you've gone up a notch. It's not that you didn't feel good, right? And this is the bit to understand. It's not that I didn't feel good. It's not that I didn't have a clear vision. It's not that I didn't have energy. It's not that I wasn't assertive. It wasn't that I was walking tall. I'm now just walking a bit taller. I'm a bit clearer. I've got a bit more energy, and I've got a bit more assertiveness. And if every year I keep raising the bar on the things that I want to do in my business, in my life, then I look back after 5 or 10 years and I'll be almost unrecognizable when it comes to how clear I am, how much energy I've got in comparison to what I was feeling today. So the big thing for everybody, we put on that big event for you guys, and it's often for me personally as well, to make sure that I'm knocking over some big goals and, kind of testing myself as a leader and as a CEO of a company putting together an international event like PPM Live. So wherever you are, if you're a little bit flat, maybe you need a bigger goal. If you're doing really, really well, maybe you need a bigger goal. And it's not that there's anything wrong in your life. It's just a reminder that as entrepreneurs, that's what makes us tick. That's who we are. That's what we're about. That's the juice. That's the drug. That's the thing that we want every single day. It isn't to be a fat cat. It isn't to get fat and just kind of make loads of money. It's to be excited. It's to feel like we're making progress. And I think all of these things are super important to every business owner who is listening to this podcast. And as many people have got in touch and asked who missed, ticked little cross against your name. If you're trying to get to heaven, there'll be a little cross against your name there. If you missed PPM Live, that'll definitely go against you at the other end. And we'll be doing it again so that you can join us next year, 5, 6, 7, and 8 of October in Orlando in the same hotel. So we will definitely be doing PPM Live again. And obviously my goal as a CEO and as just a guy trying to kind of keep energizing himself is to try and make this thing bigger and better, and kind of come away every year thinking we did something even bigger and we raised the bar. So that's what's good in my life. And me and Derrick behind the scenes, we've just had a wonderful conversation. Derrick thinks he lives in paradise, and I think I live in paradise. So we've just had a fight over where paradise, who lives in a better version of paradise. And as I said to Derrick, you're in very good company. You're hanging around with people that are at your level and the level that you want to be at when you're having a fight over who's the happiest. So that's a good start to the day. Derrick, welcome to the show.
Absolutely. And to echo your kind of post mastermind thoughts, the same exact thing. Everyone I've talked to is like, you leave these events where you are just like thinking up here, and you're thinking about purpose, and you're thinking about strategy, and you're thinking about the future and why we're doing the things. And you're listening to these amazing speakers talk about their journey, and you're sharing your experience with other business owners, and you come back, and the level of clarity that you get from those events and the energy change that you get from those is why I think they're necessary as you continue to grow a business. It's amazing.
They're a prerequisite of that. And I think that's where you rise to a level of thinking, and this is probably where we'll get into it. You rise to a level of thinking that is beyond the practical or the tactical when it comes to success in life. It's not going to be a piece of content, although that's massively important. It's how do I feel about myself? It's what have I learned about myself? What do I know now that I didn't about myself? What do I know about my business now that I didn't? Even right down to the fact that I think I need this every 3 or 4 months. This is healthy for me. Like I don't need to worry about whether or not there's a great speaker on. I just need to be around some really smart people having a fight over who's the happiest and who lives in the best version of paradise. Like, you're in the right place if you're having those types of conversations, and I think it's the events that you get that juice and that energy.
Yeah, and a lot of that, it's the action, right? That gives you that. Like, you can't sit at home and think and get into that same state. You have to go. You have to take the action. Like, listening to you talk about the energy around the office. Like, when you set this action and this system in motion, and we're actually taking action on something that feeds into our purpose, that's where that comes from. That's where that energy and that belief comes from, is because you actually put it into action. Whether you hit it or not, whether you knock it out of the park or not, you're going to come back from that with a renewed sense of purpose, with a renewed sense of energy. But we have to do it. We got to do the rep. We got to take the action, right?
Love it. So let me give some context to this. So Derrick is in Lafayette in Louisiana. How far? Just give us context from, we probably all know New Orleans. How far?
We're about 2 hours from New Orleans.
So 2 hours from New Orleans. Is it New Orleans or Orleans? Say it.
At New Orleans.
New Orleans. There you go.
Yeah, I don't think people in Louisiana would say the New Orleans, but Louisiana accents are all over the map. So there's certainly, you go to Shreveport and you're like, well, is that part of Louisiana or not? I love my Shreveport people. Nobody get mad.
So we're in just outside New Orleans. There you go. Did I say it right?
Yeah,
I got schooled on Louisville. Louisville. There you go. I got schooled on Louisville. Macy's from Louisville, and Brandon Evans was on the podcast recently, and he taught me how to speak Louisville. So we're just outside, 2 hours from New Orleans, and Derrick has been in our world now for a few years. He came to an event in New Orleans just before COVID, if you remember. Where would that be? 2020. So February 2020, came to our event, joined us, and then subsequently made his way into our CEO program. And then follow the story. 2.5 years later, he makes his way to the stage to present his story to 300 plus people vying to win a competition that we call the UCEO, Ultimate CEO Competition. And the winner gets a $10,000 prize where they come with me to England, and I take them all over to London and just some cool places, and hopefully get some tickets to some good sports events and Wimbledon maybe, and whatever else we're going to do, and over to Hartlepool. So I'm excited to have Derrick, but he made his way onto the stage and presented his story. Phenomenal numbers, phenomenal success. And when I watch the story, I think, you've been to these events before. The crowd don't always vote for the most, if you like, successful in terms of numbers, right? There's always a story behind it. And when I looked at Derrick's, I thought, oh, he's got both here. He's got a phenomenal story and he's got great numbers to back it up. And it's very, very obvious he has a fantastic brain when it comes to business, as do all of the the finalists. It was very close. And it's easy for me to say this. I always think, when you see these game shows, they're like, it's close. Oh, there's only 2 points in it. Right? It was close. It was really, really close this year. It was closer than the last two that we've ever had. And Derrick just pipped it to be the winner of the Ultimate CEO competition and be our kind of representative, if you like, our kind of poster boy for what success looks like if you're in and around Planet Port. And today we're going to dig in a little bit. We'll get his post-event thoughts, but really just try and find out what's the cogs that are ticking inside of the Ultimate CEO competition as Winner's brain, and just try and unpack a few things, thoughts, actions that he's done over the last year or two. So there's going to be lots to learn. Super successful, massive seven-figure business, loads of money, loads of profit, loads of revenue. I'm not even going to get into the specifics. We don't need to. His success is just incredible. Tell us a little bit about your story then, how you got started. Give us the sort of Twitter version of it, and let's get into some big decisions you've made to get to, if I'm allowed to, a couple of $1 million practice that's very, very profitable.
Yeah, I think I started like a lot of people, and this was the conversations that we had in Orlando, was, coming out of PT school, you're wanting to be the best practitioner that you possibly can. And, that competitive nature, it's like, I'm going to do everything I can to be the best, practitioner that I can be. I'm going to learn everything. And, we almost see this as a destination. As I keep learning, I'm going to get to this promised land where I'm the best and everything's going to be amazing. And so for me, that was literally traveling around the world for a few years, finding the best people that I could learn from to be the best practitioner. And I came back. I was running a practice in South Alabama for a few people to try and kind of cut my teeth in business, but not actually do any business, just be a practice, manager. And I look back at that and you're like, you did nothing that was in leadership. And really, other than learning that it was possible, that's about all I got, which is not to say that it's, to discount that. It was helpful, but and then I moved back to Louisiana to actually open the practice, believe that it could be done. And again, my focus at this point is just being the best practitioner possible.
Yeah.
How do we, get more people better than anyone else? And you hear that all the time from practice owners, but a lot of practitioners. And then one of the things that I said over the years, we're at that point, you're in that yo-yo phase, right? That yo-yo system phase where like, you're not getting enough patients. And so what do? You do events and you start marketing and stuff, and you get more patients coming in, and then you get busy. So you stop doing all those things because you're seeing patients. And as you stop doing those things, the patient numbers go back down. And so you do it again, you start doing events, you start marketing again. And for quite a while, we're just kind of sitting in that yo-yo phase. And starting to try and push for more, kind of word of mouth and, hey, we do things different. Let's start getting it. And that does start to pay off if you just kind of are like, I'm just going to keep working. It's that mindset. And we'll dive into it. I'm going to outwork everyone. That was the big thing that I kept going. I'll work 70 hours when the other guy will work 60 hours. It's fine. Yeah. And then I think the tipping point for me was that started to be successful. I started to have the patient numbers and, get the referrals and the word of mouth and the patient numbers coming in to a point where I could start hiring and bring on some more staff to start seeing patients. And I tell it there at the height of that. So at the height of our success from me working as a practitioner and trying to be the best practitioner possible, I had two things happen that made me stop in my tracks and be like, okay, I need to rework the way I'm thinking about business altogether, because apparently I don't know anything. And the first one was we were growing. And so we were moving locations. We were moving into a bigger location. And my lead PT, we had 2 full schedules, had some health issues that popped up and had to go into treatment for a while. And like, just to put this, kudos to them for doing it. But at that time, it was the biggest moment of my business career. We were moving into a bigger location. We had full schedules, and I'm there by myself now, trying to fulfill all of these visits. And so I called my office manager. I was like, look, we can't change this. Change my schedule. I'll come in early. I'll work late. And so I really worked about 70 hours a week seeing patients for the rest of that year, basically, to catch up to do it.
Yep.
And then, we finished, and I kind of patted myself on the back in that moment. You're like, it's the wartime general idea. Like, we got the team through it. I worked. I feel so great. Like, we're back. We're up and running. We're in this new location. And I get a call that like February or March from my CPA, and he says, we have an $80,000+ tax bill that has to be paid. And with all the moving expenses and all that stuff that went into that, it meant that I personally lost 10 grand over that year.
Yep.
I paid to work those 70 to 80 hours for that year. And look, I love helping people. That's why I do it. But that will stop you in your tracks and be like, okay, apparently what I think I know is not correct. So we're gonna rethink everything that we're doing, and what are my mindsets, and what was I thinking at the time? And this is a big lesson that I've learned from you is don't just reflect on your actions. Reflect on the thinking, that the mindset you were in, what you were thinking around those actions. And so that led to a lot of changes going through that experience. And you hear this stuff a lot, you go through these difficult times and it leads to more positive things. And, a lot of people will say, like, it's the best thing that happened to me. Well, that's because of the action that you took after that is why it's the best thing that happened to you. And we can say that about a lot of challenges, but that was kind of the start that led up to this. And so, of course, at that point, I'm like, I've got to start learning how to run a business, because this way isn't going to work.
Yeah.
And so you start looking for coaches and start looking for information. And you're just trying to collect as much data. And the one thing that I say about mentorship is find someone who is where you want to be. Don't find someone who's just, putting out theory. I want to know how you did it.
Yep.
And, of course, going through that process, I end up finding some of your information, start listening to the podcast, like a lot of people are probably doing right now. And these ideas start to pop in that are a little bit different of, maybe I do need to actually spend time working on the business. During that whole time, all the time I was spending at the office, none of it was thinking about the business or working on the business. It's all patients. Like, how do we see more patients? How do we treat more patients? How do we get staff to treat more patients? You're not really thinking about, what are we doing with this business? How are we creating systems to make this business run more effectively? How do we create systems to help my people be more effective? How do we create systems to make this a more profitable and effective business? So, that led to us meeting, and it was kind of a nice thing that y'all came to New Orleans. Hopefully we can get y'all back here in Louisiana again.
Yeah,
but
definitely.
It was a perfect time. It was this kind of inflection point of the height of my thinking that I want to do more and help more people, and I can't do that the way that I'm currently doing this.
Yeah.
And so listening, I remember one of your first talks in New Orleans was kind of like talking about, how to create a business so good that you could sell it, but you don't want to.
Yeah.
And I just wrote notes the entire time. I was like, right now, if you take me out of this, like, we can't sell this. It's not set up at all like that. Yeah. And so that you start going back and you're like, can I put these thoughts into action? And that was, that led to a couple of years of really a lot of changes in the business, and a lot of changes in myself, a lot of changes in my mindset that I think, a lot of us need to get to that next level.
Yeah. Let me go in then. You were a great example. So the business is heading up towards nearly $3 million. And over the years, I've spoke about this idea of a valley of death that I was introduced to, that every business has a phase. there's this first phase of naught to $300,000. So anybody listening to this will be able to find themselves in. They're in naught to 300 grand, 300 to $1 million. So the team that gets you to 300 grand is probably you and an assistant, and maybe one other. Then all of a sudden you start thinking, oh, well, let's hire 3 or 4 more people. 300 grand to $1 million. There's a stuck point somewhere around halfway between every valley. So around about 600 or 700, the business owner starts to feel the pain of the team, the machine that's been built doesn't work, falls apart, needs to be rebuilt. And anybody who's stuck at 600 or 700, it's because the team isn't ready to take it to $1 million. So you get to $1 million and you think, great, we've got a perfect team, and we push through. And this team's fantastic. And then all of a sudden, around about 2 million, 1.8 million, you're like, oh, I don't know if this is going to work. And like, we're stuck again. And, yada, yada. Oh, shit, let's rebuild. And then we head to 3 million. So like, that's the valleys of death, if you like. And then there's the 3 to 10 million. So like this company, the Polgolf Media, is kind of now literally halfway between that next 3 to 10 million, right? So guess what? Guess what's coming Paul's way, right? It doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, right? And I've already had a bit of that over the last 3 to 6 months where we've had to upgrade the team because they just can't. They can't, for whatever reason, don't want to sometimes. The character, attitude, whatever. They just don't want to do that. So we've got somebody on the call that we can go all the way with, and that's where I'm going to take this call with you. Let's go back. I'm going to take you back. Let's go to the 300 grand to $1 million phase. 300 grand to $1 million phase. What was the pivotal point? Remember back. What did you do? Who did you hire? What was the inflection point that got you through that? Or was it a level of thinking, a change in your thinking between, let's call it 600 grand to get past $1 million? What did you do?
It's interesting that you say that, because during some of these times, I stopped thinking of like good and bad in business. Business is just a constant cycle, and that cycle continues to grow and change. But it's always like you have something that fails and you learn from it, and that creates some success, and that success creates growth, which leads to another failure.
Yep.
And that creates learning, which creates new systems and success. And as you go through that, things are going to constantly change. And so, looking at that, the failures that led to growth from probably that 300 to $1 million phase was one part. I think starting to really have a focus on marketing. Initially I was like, I'm like most practitioners. Like, I want to practice. I want to treat patients. And then you get into practice and you're kind of banging your head against the wall, and you're, doing the work, and numbers are going up, but they're not quite, booming like you would want them to. And so starting to focus on marketing and figuring out how to acquire the patients that we want was a big step to get into that, to get through that 300 to $1 million. Hiring, bringing on like-minded PT and PTs that wanted to be part of the mission that we were doing. We couldn't have got through it without doing that, without bringing them on. So, and then, that leads you to those next parts where you're, okay, now we have these, kind of pieces in place. We're getting the patients in, we have the people to see the patients. Now are we getting, the most out of these visits that we can get, or are we just growing visits because now our expenses are up, our income is up? But really, whenever I looked back at it, so when we were at, let's say 300 to 400, and it was just me, we were, for that little bit of time, we were more profitable than when we were at $1 million. And it was, us and a staff of 10, or me and a staff of 10. And so, you're adding those pieces in place. But if you don't do it in a way where you're thinking about profit and you're thinking about finances, you'll keep growing, but you're not growing. You're growing in visits, you're growing in expenses, but you're not growing profit. You're not growing, the business in a way that it's sustainable. And so you end up with, like you've talked about a lot, we end up with $1 million practice that, it's not terribly profitable. It costs you a lot of time to run.
Yep.
It takes a lot. It's causing a lot of stress. It's not giving you the life that you probably thought you were stepping into when you started the business. And then, a lot of people, I think that's why it's the valley of death. They get to that point and they're like, this is what I wanted. this was the destination I was trying to get to,
Yeah.
and I'm not happy.
Yeah.
And I don't have the business I want. I don't know if, if what to do from this point. Do I sell it? Do I get out? Do I shift gears?
Yeah.
Or do I buckle down, do the hard work? How do I actually create the business that I want, that can support the staff, can help the patients, help the people, and also serve my purpose and create the life that I want?
Yeah, I love it. I'm making some notes here. I've got some questions I'm going to follow up on. The conversation I had yesterday, I have a few different business coaches I talked to, and one of them was talking to me about how at every level, it doesn't really matter, right? The phrase, a people problem is a people problem. A marketing problem is a marketing problem. Finance problem is a finance problem, right? And it doesn't matter how big the business gets, you've still got a people problem. And then like at this point now, as you described it as you're traversing round a huge mountain, right? And it never really goes, you're just swinging back round to a people problem. So even at 3 million or 4 million or 5 million, the first problem was, how do I get a front desk gal, right? How do I get a good front desk guy? And then like $3 million later, it's, how do I get a good manager of these front desk people? Like it doesn't really change, right? The emphasis is just still on people. So like nothing goes away. The 5 or 6 problems in a business, originally it's how do I find good admin staff, and then it's how do I find good management staff for admin, and then how do I find a good COO of the company to manage everybody? Like it just becomes a magnified version of it. And the thing that I wrote down, my thoughts, and I love it where we're at in this $1 million kind of horrible chokehold, 3 to 6, 3 to a million. Hire better people is the bit that nobody wants to face up to. Understand the finances better and think like an investor. So you start to think about, where am I putting my dollars, my soldiers, as Kevin O'Leary. I'm sending my soldiers out to battle, 2 of them. Do I get 4 back within 30 days? So you move from this kind of creature of just do stuff to thinking more about leverage with people and hiring. And I think, as I interview a lot of people now, and the reason that the people get stuck, it's ultimately the mentality is more of the same. So I'm at 800 and I worked really hard. Let's just work harder. Let's get more visits. And really the machine's starting to break because the people aren't right. The finances are not in play, so they don't have any understanding of cash and where it is and where it's coming from or how quickly it's coming in. So that causes them to be frightened and scared. And it also means they keep employing the same type of person when what they needed was probably 1 or 2 at a level above, but they think they can't afford it, but they can't afford it because they don't have a handle on finances. And they're not thinking like an investor of, I'll pay 60 instead of 40 or 50 instead of 35 or whatever, and I'll get more leverage back.
Yeah, at that stage, I think a lot of people think about employees as an expense.
Yeah.
You're like, it's going to cost me this much, not that it's going to bring me this much to bring these people on. And when we talk about this all the time in CEO, that everything comes back to a people problem at some point in time. And that's one of the reasons I love like listening to people like Daymond John and some of these big, super accomplished businessmen, is when you talk to them, they're dealing with the same issues that we're dealing with. It comes back to people communicating, expectations with those people, communicating goals with those people. What does success look like for your people? What does failure look like for your people? They're doing the same stuff we're doing. The scale is just different.
Yeah.
And so when you see that, a lot of this at some point for the vast majority of us comes back to belief, in that I believe that I'll figure it out if I hire somebody so that we can get to the next step.
Yeah.
I believe that we can get to that next ladder. A lot of times we need proof for that to break that kind of self-limiting belief. And when we get to the ladder rung just below it, we're like, well, of course I can get there. Like I've proven to myself that I can get there. The other thing that I find very helpful is to see other people who have gotten there. And that creates a self-belief. Well, if he climbed the ladder to that rung, then I can certainly climb the ladder to that rung as well. And, that's sometimes we just kind of have to have the self-belief that we can do it and we'll figure it out. Your kind of mantra that we talk about, like have the self-belief, not the self-confidence. The self-belief will lead to the self-confidence to go into these bigger businesses, to grow, to take the chance to, grow in practice, grow in employees, grow in locations, all of the above. But you have to have that self-belief that you can figure it out, that you will, that it'll be okay. This is where I want to go. This is going to be a fun thing to do. You won't fail because you can't fail.
Even if you
because you'll
did,
enjoy it anyway.
you loved it anyway. And
Right.
the chances are in your favor if you stay. Spoke about it on yesterday's mastermind call. If state becomes more important than status, if you stop worrying about who you're trying to be and what everybody thinks of you, and you just focus on having a damn good time and enjoying your life, you feel good about it, and you'll make good decisions when you feel good. You're just a magnet for like things to happen when you feel good about yourself.
It's such an interesting thing because throughout this process, I would say things have changed about the business, and the trajectory of my business will be dramatically different over the next 5 years because of the stuff that we have talked about, that I've learned from you, that we've started to put in place. The biggest thing that I'm excited about and happy about is the fun that I have in business now, the excitement of doing the things that we want to do and looking forward. I look back at where I was at times in business, and there was a lot of stress. There was times where it certainly wasn't fun. I loved treating the patients, but the business, running the business, and not understanding what I needed to do to help my people and to have good people and to be a good leader was stressful. And to not have that, and to feel really good about the future of your business and start having fun and know that, this is going to be a blast. Like, we're going to do some exciting things. It's going to be very, very fun. Will the results be exactly what we want? Probably not, because we never know. There's always going to be twists and turns in there. But if you get to the point where you're like, that doesn't matter, that's whenever you have really kind of grown, personally. And then it's interesting when you get to that point, the business kind of takes off and takes care of itself anyway. That's the stuff that I'm more excited about of what's changed over the last 3 years. Is from me personally, more than the business. It's great, but they go together a lot of times.
Undeniably, unquestionably. Again, a little point I raised yesterday was this. We're all taught that generally we're surrounded by people, and take this the right way. We're surrounded by teachers and even mentors, if I'm allowed to say it. The books and various things. It's very much aimed at just appeasing the masses, right? It's just tick a box for as many people as possible. And one of them is this concept of time and freedom, right? You ask any business owner. I spoke about this at PPM Live. Any business owner, they want time and freedom. Money, they want freedom in terms of time and freedom in terms of money. So I want loads of money to do what I want, and I want loads of time to go where I want. Great. Is that what you really want? Yeah, that's definitely what I want. Are you sure that's what you want? Great. Well, because I think if you run a successful business, and many people do, where they could walk away from the business, but they don't, and many people have enough money where they could buy what they want within reason, to live the life that they, could never have dreamed of. But the reason they don't is because they don't have freedom from self-criticism. They don't have freedom from being judged. And I pointed out yesterday, some of the people listening to me, you could all step back. You could all not treat patients. You could come and go from the office. The reason you won't is because you're worried about being judged by your staff, by your husband, by your wife, by your kids, by your parents. So unless you have that freedom from that, you cut that cord, this success over here actually just begins to irritate you. You become pissed off that you've made money and you've got loads of time, but for some reason you still don't feel good about yourself. So the business owner, and this is why I'm so pleased for you, the business owner who starts to realize that actually if I take care of myself and I figure out all of this shit at the same time is figuring out the stuff that's going on in my balance sheet or my profit and loss or my marketing plan or whatever, then I'm in the game. But I can't build the business thinking that it's going to make me feel better. If I make me feel better, chances are that the business goes to the moon. And that's what I watch with any of our successful clients, members, myself included, as I look in the mirror. The magic has always been when I watch somebody's eyes change and their little kind of blood in their cheeks and a little, confidence and a bit of a swagger and a bit of a fuck you kind of attitude, boom, magic happens within weeks and within months. And you're a testament to that.
Yeah, you hit it on the head, because I've talked to so many people in different fields and different areas of business, and you hear them explaining their problems and what they're worried about and the stressors, and you're like, you need to. It's not the business; it's you. You need to improve yourself, and that will take care of a lot of these issues. You need to do the work on yourself to get to a point where you can be that type of a leader, that type of a communicator. And when you do those things, that's what is going to lead to the business success that they want. But it's such a slippery slope of really using the business as your metric of success, because it needs to be that have gotten myself into a place where I feel very good about who I am, about what I'm doing, about how I'm communicating. Because if you're not in that place when all these problems arise as a business owner, they're going to happen. We're on that cycle of business. You start to question whether you're doing the right thing. And a lot of business owners, that fear when those things go wrong, that it's them, it's reflective of them, not the cycle of business. They shift gears, or they change, or they stop going forward, and they lose all of the business success that they were hoping for, and they're not successful in themselves. And you hear of, like, talking to Daymond John, he's like, we shut the business down 3 times. How many people at that point would have said, it's me, I'm not a good business owner, I'm not I'm not a good leader, I can't grow this thing, and I'm not going to keep going, and would have taken that almost personally, as opposed to, hey, this is part of the process. I feel like I am growing, I'm making myself better. And then that leads to the business success that most of us look at and envy, but that's not the real success. The real success is what you make yourself into, that brings the business success.
What was, we keep going there, so let's talk. What was the biggest thing you got then from PPM Live? What did you get from either, just, well, 2 things, one of the speakers and then everything else? What did you get? What was your big thing?
The thing I got, this was definitely the best one. I know y'all have heard it a lot over the last few weeks, but just the ability to weave in and out of the high level thinking and the goals, and then like dip back into some strategy. I know a lot of us, we want that. That's the candy that we want to get. Listening to somebody like Daymond John, just know, like, you keep going, you keep getting better, you keep pushing, and it is possible. Listening to James Lawrence and the Iron Cup, that was such an incredible eye-opening talk about what is possible and the limitations that we place on ourselves in our mind, and how to push through that. Like, one of the things that he said is, like, what if you just said, I'm not quitting, I won't quit? Then success becomes inevitable, because you're like, I'm just going to keep going until I'm successful. And his thought about, like, I get to do these things, I get to show up at work, I get to talk with these people, I get to live in these places. That's such a beautiful mindset shift. We're in the best time. You look at the news, it's bull. We're in the best time to be alive ever, for so many different reasons. And it's very easy to not live in that I get to mindset these days. Especially over the last couple of years, COVID, this stock market, all of these things, it's very easy to let other people talk you out of this. I get to be here, I get to do these things. So those are some of the big ones. I've got notes and notes and notes. So
mine, I loved a couple of comments from Daymond, and the 27 summers was just so I mean, because I'm kind of in that kind of, my life, I'm as equally obsessed with how do I get the best out of my life as I am growing a business, and just making sure that I enjoy it and feel good about life, and kind of don't take it too seriously. And when he said that, there was 2 pivotal things. He said, I've got 27 summers left, not 27 years, 27 summers. That was like, oh my goodness. I started looking at my kids going, I've probably got 3 years, like I've got 3 summers with Harry before he doesn't want a bedtime story. And I've probably got like 6 summers with Tobias before he's like, nah, Dad, like, you don't need to cuddle me anymore or hold my hand on the way to school. I'm like, oh shit. Like, everything just got so much like context in that moment. And I think that's the bit that I got from Daymond, was time, like the use of time. They think about time differently. It's just a totally different view of it than anybody else. The thing behind the scenes was incredible, where it was like 5 to 3 or whatever time he was speaking, and he went, you'll have to go now. And I was like, all right, is he getting ready for a call? This is his minder. He said, no, I thought, is he getting ready to come out like and talk, because we had 5 minutes to go? He went, no, he's going to take a call. I went, huh? But he's on in 5 minutes. He's like, no, he's on in 8 minutes. He's on in 8. there's 3 minutes of the video, right? And I went, like, this is it. I love it. That's my first. That was worth the money. 3 minutes of the video. He said he's not going to stand there and listen to the video. Like, he literally walked on stage, up the steps, and sat in the chair and started speaking to me the minute the second the video ended. 8 minutes to him was like, I've got work to do. And then from I thought was really funny where he said, every year I get rid of a friend. Like,
Yeah.
I delete somebody from my list. I'm like, huh? How does this work? It's like alphabetical, or is it like an age thing? He said, no. Like, every year, he said, I get happier, and therefore there's somebody around me who's getting miserable. And I figure out who that is, and I just cut the cord and stop ringing them and, say bye, thank you very much. And I love that one. But from a business point of view, this was the one I loved. And I saw this immediately in my own life, and it just shows you how little things kind of trigger you in the right way. If you remember, I asked him about what's the key to be successful of all of your businesses, and he said structure and communication. Structure is everybody in the right seats. Do they all know their roles? And is everybody given an opportunity to talk? And if they are, you've got a chance, basically. And if you apply that to a little bit of that conversation we've had, you think about, why do people get stuck in the valley of death? Structure. You've probably got the wrong people in the wrong seats. And there's probably isn't any communication, because the physio, right, take this the right way, the clinician is sat treating patients all day, every day. So there isn't any communication going on. So is it any wonder that there's so many bad physio businesses out there? Good business owners, potentially, but bad businesses, and not making any money because the structure is wrong. Nobody given any thought to org chart and role clarity, and there's no communication, because you can't get hold of the business owner, because he's more take this the right way. The business owner is more concerned with Mrs. Smith, who's got a bad back, than he is Sally on the front desk who answers the phone.
Yeah, and at some point, you start to realize that you can truthfully help more people if you build the structure of the business up than you will ever be able to do personally, with your hands and being in the room with Miss Sally, as you say. But that's a big mindset shift for a lot of people, is that, I need to be the one that's helping people versus I need to be the one that sets up the structure that helps people. And that's the hard part for a lot of people, because we get our egos wrapped into it. We get this immediate satisfaction of treating patients, where someone comes in, thank you so much. You helped me. I'm doing this now. It's very easy to stay stuck in that because it feels good. Yep. Than to do this long work where you're, sitting down and recreating, the systems of a business that encourage growth. You don't sometimes see the benefits of that for years. Yeah. But that's the work that gets you to that next level. That's the work that starts to, in 5 years, you're helping 1 million people a year versus 1,000, is doing that type of work, and not, being in there doing the hands-on work. That is for somebody. But if you want to be a good CEO, you want to be a good business owner, it's the other work that actually creates a business that will help many, many exponential more people than what you could ever do as a practitioner or a clinician.
I'm going to put you on the spot. And the context is, you are running a nearly $3 million business, incredibly profitable. You're reducing your hours every year, so you're seeing less and less patients. You travel. You lead a terrific life, right? So you're somebody that people admire and would want to look up to, and would possibly want to, it's not be like Mike, it's be like Derrick, right? Potentially. If that's the case, what do you think your 5 strengths are? 5. And here's what's really interesting. I'm giving this as a little tip for everybody listening. Ask an interview E for 5 strengths, and watch they normally get asked for 1 or 2. To get to 5, it's really difficult, but it's a fantastic question. So what's 5?
I'll rattle a couple off. You have to keep.
Everybody gets the first 1 or 2, right? The first 1 or 2. This is the thing. But the 3rd, 4th, and the 5th, you can see people are scratching their brain. And you're like, gee, I don't know.
Yeah. So the first one that would come out would be problem solving. Is thinking of other ways to solve problems. And pulling from this collection of information to solve problems. The second is learning. Is like, I am obsessed with learning. No matter what it is, can I learn more about it and put that into action? I think the third would be probably the willingness to take action in situations that I'm unsure of, and actually following through with some of that stuff that you're learning, because you don't actually improve from reading something. Knowledge is not power. Knowledge that informs action is power. And so I would say that that's another one. I would like to say today, leadership and inspiration is one. It's something I've worked on a ton, and being able to communicate with everyone, patient, staff, and lead them. Here's the vision that I see. Can we get to that vision? So communicating that has certainly become a big part of it. So, leadership, kind of communication. Teaching is definitely in that list. I don't know what number I'm at now, but
keep
teaching.
Going, Derrick.
We'll keep it rolling. Teaching is a big part of, I think, everything that we've accomplished from a marketing standpoint. I have a kind of a thought that we should be teaching people to live healthier lives. We should teach our employees to be better, to be more effective. We should teach our patients the habits they need to do. As business owners, we should be teaching how do we add these things to get, and I mean, this is what you do. It's amazing, to get the business to where you want. How do we add the cash services? How do we, do some of that stuff? And I think this will be a little bit of a different one, would be, I am a very good copier. So when I see someone who is doing well, I can see that and be like, how can we take that and put our little twist on it and make it into a very effective, program, protocol, activity, business, whatever it might be. So those are my,
I would agree.
However many.
I love it. I love it. I love the fact you never mentioned treating patients. I was waiting for it to come out. I was like, he's going to mention it. He's going to mention it. But I love it. And the bit at the end, to give you a little label on that one, it's called, I think the term would be synthesis. You're very good at being able to synthesize something. And I realized that I had that skill a few years back, that and the reason it's so important is because it allows you to speed things up. So when everybody else, so if you really dig deep into this, right? If you really dig deep into this, that if Derrick can synthesize information from another source, and he can almost like osmosis bring it across, so he can go on an aeroplane, see something happening in an industry that's just so wildly different to physio, and his brain's open to it, and he's able to bring it to physio, and he goes, that's what we're going to do. We're going to copy this, we're going to copy that bit, and we're going to use the structure of that and the framework of that, and that's coming into our business. Could be an upsell, it could be a magazine in the back of a chair, it could be some piece of customer service, it could be whatever. The rest of the world looks at this and goes, that won't work for physio because it's Southwest. Now, we can't do that. That's Southwest. It doesn't work for physio. We need to go and copy examples from other physios. And so what happens is it's bland. Everything looks the same. It's all boring, and you get what everybody else gets. The genius is synthesis, that you can look at a sales page and go, I can take that. I can listen to this podcast and go, I can do my version of that. I can take Paul's background. I can take Paul's questions. I can take Paul's insert the blank, and I can go and do that in my business. And that gives you speed. And that's the bit that the world-class business, the world-class CEO, the one you look at and you're like, how the hell did they get all of this shit done? It's synthesis. It's the ability to look at something else, bring it, nobody else can see it, and they think you're weird because you've brought something from an airline that you were on a flight to Hawaii while you were on the way to holiday, and you came back and you went, there you go, we're going to do this. Where did you get that from, Derrick? Well, I got it on my holiday. And everybody in the world goes, well, you're going on holiday, that means you're not working. And Derrick, meanwhile, sat on the flight going, I'm never fucking not working. And I'm looking for any opportunity to get something. I need to be on these flights to pick something up to take back to my business. And that's what synthesis is.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I love traveling so much. I mentioned it in there, is you're always pulling in things that people are doing differently and thinking differently. And how do they, this is why I love coming to Orlando 4 times a year. It's like we pop into Disney, we pop into Universal. Yeah. What's the differences? What are they doing that makes you feel that little bit different? But I'll tell you a funny story. At the end of the PPM Live, I walked around and grabbed all of your folders, all of your program folders, the CMO, CFO.
That's where they've gone.
So in it, you've got all these like what is the program and how would you give it to someone to explain what that is? Like this referral thing. I was like, this is what we need for all of our programs for our patients. So when they leave, they've got a regenerative therapy program. They've got one on, recovery. They've got one on cryotherapy. And that's what they give to all of the people. Oh, look here, you want to know more about it? Here it is. So on my flight home, I'm going through what you were using about all your programs. And I'm, all right, well, just drag and drop. What is our program? Exactly. What do we label it? What is it going to do for you? What are the benefits of it? So yeah, that's where some of y'all's went.
That's the speed, right? And everybody listening to this, as people ask and kind of probe around my journey and the speed of which it's grew and it's gone, synthesis is at the heart of it. I did realize 7 or 8 years ago that I had an ability to go pull that from there, pull that from there. There's a rule in the office, and you ask any of my team, if anybody makes stuff up, I hit the roof, because making stuff up costs me money. I don't want like people to be creative, because it's like somebody else has been creative for us. What we need to do is grab it and use that as the starting point to how we're going to create whatever it is. So there's an example for this. There's an example for that. Miss, you sat next to me. My job is to go, there you go. Like, there's an example. Copy this, copy that, copy the other. Put our stamp on it, as in our language, our verbiage, but don't get creative. Bring a little bit of this, bring a little bit of that, put it together. We get it done in 8 hours, rather than somebody else who's taken 40 hours and kind of loses energy at the end and half-asses it. That I'm adamant to every one of you listening to this. You've got to get that you've got to get in that game and have the confidence to do it. That's the unique genius of a world-class CEO.
Yeah, why not do it? Like it's there for you. The template is there.
I'll if you want me to answer the question, ego. That's again, this is a lesson for everybody listening on their staff. The staff are going to tell you that they want to do it from scratch because it feels good, and it's ego. Like, it's ego in play, and help your staff understand it. You don't need to. Like, I know you're good at what you do. I just don't need you to be good at that thing. Like, I don't need you to be good at be creative. I need you to be good at be that thing, which is back to structure and communication. I don't want you sitting there for 40 hours with a blank screen and staring at it. I want you looking at 4 or 5 things and then working out how we're going to bring them all together to make this thing work. So the reason they won't do it, Derrick, is candidly is ego. Not in a bad way. It's just a natural. We all try to prove something. I'm going to do this my own way, and I go, why? There's a dude out there who's made loads of money who's happier than you. Just copy him. No, I'm going to figure out how to do it myself. Why? Like, ego. I'm better than everybody, and I'm somehow uniquely different, and we all are in our own way. But when somebody's got a proven model, gee, just bloody copy that fucking thing and bring your stuff to it. Like, this office is just a shrine to years of doing what you've done, which is why I'm internally laughing. I'm going, Derrick's got $500 fucking worth of my printing material on the flight on the way home. However, I admire it because I do exactly the same. In fact, truth be told, it's why I go to seminars. Top 3 reasons I go to seminars is to take the swipe material and bring it back to my team and go, there you go. If that's what Russell Brunson's doing at ClickFunnels, he's a billionaire. I ain't fucking around with what Russell Brunson's doing. He's done the testing. He's done the shit. I'm just bringing it back to Macy and going, there you go. Let's create our version, right? And I've got a million other people that I would do the same thing for. And it's one of the reasons I get off my ass and go to these conferences still to this day, because I want to know how they did it so I can bring it back. How do you think we put PPM on? Because I've been to 85 million conferences over the last however many years. I love that bit. I want that bit, and I want that bit, and I want that bit. I didn't sit and think about making that up from scratch. It came from synthesis. I go to every year I go to a technology conference, right, in Nashville. What the fuck? They're all selling ransom software, cybersecurity, dark web, like all of this shit. I have no interest in any of it. But the person who puts the event on, best in the world at what she does. Every year without fail, I'm in Nashville. You check it. Other than through COVID, for the last however many years, even from England, I used to fly over. Every year the conference goes from 12,000 to 1,500, 2,000. Unbelievable. But I'm not interested in the technology stuff. I'm interested in what goes on. Like
I think that's the layer a little bit deeper is a lot of people will look at the surface level of these things and they won't like, what were they trying to do with this? What, what did it make me feel? I've kept a list of things, of advertisements, of, different marketing material that either made me buy something or I almost bought something. And if you learn from what that is more than, the actual product, then like, this is, the watch what I do more than what I say. And like, this is what I was telling my staff about PBM Live. There was these content sessions that were amazing. Also / advertisements for other programs that could help business owners.
Yeah.
I was like, next year we're going, COVID stopped this, but we used to do a quarterly luncheon for our patients that were amazing content sessions / advertisements for some of our advanced programs. And I was sitting through one of those and I was like, I'm looking around and some people who are like, oh, I don't need a CMO right now. I don't need, I'm like, you're missing it. Like this, take notes on what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
You should be doing this in your practice.
Yeah. I love it. It is. It's watch what we do as much as what we, as what we say and how everything's positioned and broken up and never feels like anything heavy. It's like, if you want the information, there it is. It's prepared for you. It's in the room, right? Let's get on with the content, if you like, that you came for. So I love it. Last couple of questions. What's the biggest thing you've learned from being part of CEO? What's that one standout thing where you think, I'm glad I joined CEO. I got that.
The biggest thing that I think has really kind of shifted in the CEO group is the focus on people. We've talked about it a lot on this, but our focus on staff, on patients, on communicating with our people has shifted dramatically in the last couple of years, and a lot of the systems that we've created around that has come from CEO. Communicating expectations, communicating, during these scorecard conversations, what does success look like for all of your people? What does failure look like? We talk a lot about think in reverse. Why would this person get fired? What are those reasons? List them out. That's their base level of success, is you just answered the question for it. So, that would be the biggest number one that I've learned from CEO. And, there's such a power of learning from, 10 businesses, from sitting around and problem solving. I would say another thing that is a close second is to be able to build the skill of stepping out of your business and looking at the problems. That's what we do for other businesses. Yep. And you see solutions that if you're in it, even if you're running it as a CEO, is still sometimes hard for you to see. And somebody from the outside looks at it and it's like, well, have you tried this? Have you thought about it this way? Have you thought about that? Learning and building that skill has been very, very valuable, to kind of take a step back when some of these issues come up. And if I was looking at this as an outsider, what would my thoughts be?
Yeah. Love it. Last question, most important one. What do you want to do in England?
I love the thoughts on Wimbledon. Okay. I think we should definitely try and make that work.
We're about to find out if Derrick's a diva here. Does he want nuts on the plane and all that shit, ice in his bedroom when he gets to the hotel and all of that type of stuff, right? So we've got Wimbledon.
We've got Wimbledon. We got to go get some good, have a good tea time, right?
Would you like a centre court or court number one? Which one? Would you like Rafa or Djokovic?
We can do both. That sounds good.
Right, Wimbledon. What else? Where else do you want to go? We can't see the Queen, sadly, anymore.
Yeah,
but we can see the King now. We can go.
Yeah, we can go check the King out.
Yep.
We got to find a good pint and take in a. Well, it depends on what time of year that is. Taking a soccer match would be pretty fun over there, but I think we might be missing that.
June, July. We'll get some cricket. I can take you to a cricket game.
I've never done cricket.
England against Australia, biggest game in world cricket, is happening in England next year. All summer long, it's a good day out. We can do the football, we can do the sport and the pub in one going in the cricket. So I'll get you some cricket. We'll get to see the King, Wimbledon. Any other requests?
I'm following you. I'm following you. Any other good
Well,
thoughts?
I'm disappointed in you, and here's why. Because I was hoping you'd say the thing that I want to see the most is this little old place called Hartlepool in the northeast of England.
Look, I've been watching what is it, Wrexham with Ryan
Wrexham?
Reynolds
Yeah.
and what is his name, Rob, whatever. I was like, I feel like the template, as we're
Same.
talking about it, this is the template, Paul.
Yeah.
Get Hartlepool,
Exactly.
make a little
Yeah.
TV series around
Yeah.
it. They even go get treated now at Paul Golf physio rooms, and
Yeah.
the camera follows them into it.
Yeah. It's funny because that TV show, for anybody who's watching it with Ryan Reynolds, they tried to buy my town team, Hartlepool Fast, and the chairman of the club was like, no, I'm not. He wanted too much money, and everyone was devastated. Then he went and obviously bought Wrexham, and Wrexham is exactly 2 hours the other side of the country. So England's really small; it takes you 2 hours to get from one side to the other, 5 hours up and down, and Wrexham, if you could think about Wrexham, if they ever show you any images of Wrexham and what it looks like on that series, Hartlepool is very, very similar. Very small, economically challenged town in the north where, Wrexham, I don't think it is in Wales. It's probably just the other side of Wales, I believe. My geography might be off. It's either it's either this side of England or just that side of Wales, like one of the two. I'm not 100% sure which way around it is, but it's over there towards Liverpool, kind of a very similar town as it is Hartlepool. So it's a good similar stadium, old fashioned, kind of been there for 100 years. It's great history. But Hartlepool will be a great place. I'll take you up and show you around and get you to meet some of the characters and people in the story from my life.
Incredibly excited to get over there and see the team and see that side of it. It's always interesting for us because we hear your origin story of coming from there. So to put that and bring that full circle, to add that part into the picture, I'm excited to check out Hartlepool, man.
Yep. I'll take you to places you've never been. Harry Potter was where a few of them went last year. Ryan went to Harry Potter to the Hogwarts Castle last year. I don't know if you're a Harry Potter fan, but that's about 60 minutes away. So there's plenty to do. We're on the coast. Fish and chips, proper fish and chips, as we call it, real fish and chips. America does so many things better. It's one of the things I do miss. Fish and chips is not one of the things that they do better, I must admit. Not even the fish and chip shop in Epcot in London in Epcot Centre is even close. So you've got that to look forward to.
I love it.
All right, brilliant. Thank you very, very much. Great interview. Where can people find out a bit more about your business, your clinic, follow you on social and so on? Tell us your details.
Yeah, they can check us out. The business is Acadiana Pain and Performance. So that we're Acadiana Pain on pretty much all of the platforms. For me, DerrickHines.com has links to all of my social and stuff like that. And I put together a little checklist on how we do some of our cash stuff. I've talked to a lot of people in the group. So if they go to DerrickHines.com/business, it's some of the checklist stuff. It's just a download, something we use internally. But a lot of people who have asked about how we do cash services and stuff, that'd be a cool document for them to kind of implement as we've done with you.
Brilliant. Great work. Right. Loved it. This will be a very popular interview. I have no doubt about it. It'll be on the podcast within a few days. So thank you, Derrick. You're a start. Look forward to seeing you in Orlando in a few weeks. It has been a pleasure to watch and I don't know if the coaching is the right word, but just a guide or just to be a voice in a conversation that we've had over the years. And it's nice to have had just even a tiny little kind of input into the success that you've had over the last 2.5 years. So thank you, and well done on winning the award. Very well deserved. And please know you are a shining light and a great aspirational kind of everything you've achieved for people to look up to you for what they want to achieve in their business. So you've done a lot, and you really are a great person to be around. So thank you.
Well, and I'd like to reciprocate that. Thank you tremendously for the work you do, the time that you put into all this, the obsession with business, and continuing to help as many people live the life that they want and they deserve. I really appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you. See you soon.
Thanks,
Derrick. All right. Cheers.